In this video, we're going to be interviewing my clients Kyle and Aaron, who recently went from zero to the first 20K month within 4 months of being in my program. In this interview, we talk about a bunch of different topics like ungating, getting those first initial wins and how important they are to your future success, mentorship, but also some stuff that you probably haven't heard about before, like how they took a retail store that they were buying consistently from and then rolled that over into a profitable wholesale account. We talk about a bunch of different topics, but I think this is going to be a very valuable interview for all of you who decide to stay until the end. So let's get into it.
We were looking for something that we could make money with when we were sleeping. So pretty much we wanted to find something that's a little more passive. So we thought about the whole Amazon route and we looked into it, watched a lot of different guys on YouTube, and you just stuck out to me. I felt like you were very, excuse my profanity, no bullshit. And I just kind of liked the way you approached it and just said it how it was. So we originally started with Starbucks. We were going to Starbucks from all different states, and we were selling the Been There series mugs, which are now discontinued. So that was like our main thing. We had like 6 different states Been There series mugs, which I don't know if you've heard of those or not, but you can only get them in the state, like in a certain state. So like there's a Kentucky Been There series mug that you can only get in Kentucky. So we would go to like 5 different states and get the mugs from all the different states. And because you could
Wow.
only get them in state, they'd be selling for more on Amazon. Yeah, that was the first thing we originally got into, but those got discontinued right like at the peak of when we were starting to do Amazon. And we were forced to kind of take a different approach because that was our main thing and it got discontinued. So we started doing like retail arbitrage, looking into online arbitrage and stuff like that.
It's nice that I dabbled in private label in 2017 to 2020, and I hit a bunch of different roadblocks along the way, just trying to do it on my own. So I told him straight up, I said, hey, let's put boots on the ground. Let's try this for a little bit. I've never done like serious retail arbitrage or online arbitrage. And I said, like, let's touch the stove a little bit. Let's figure out what's going on, like going wrong. But I always knew deep down that finding a mentor with private labels would took me from not knowing what I was doing to actually making consistent sales. Although all the information is out there in a lot of ways on the internet, being able to have the A through Z right in front of us, you showing the process kind of alleviates a lot of wasted time, if you will, and a lot of headaches.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, essentially, it just comes down to time collapsing, right? It's like this guy's already been there, done that, showed like did all the mistakes already. It's like you want to go down that same path, make all the same mistakes, learn all those lessons the hard way, and then I mean, you'll still probably figure it out. It's just going to take way longer.
Exactly.
Do you still have your private label business, or
I
did you say
don't. So we got a little bit. So we got a little bit lucky. The right before COVID hit, we actually sold that account. We sold the account, and we got lucky because the product we were selling ended up getting completely, like, the import of that product got shut down during COVID. It was profitable, but it wasn't anything life changing. But it did give me at least the understanding of how Amazon Seller Central worked, and I was able to walk away with a little bit of capital. And I always knew I wanted to come back to Amazon. And truth be told, I had a partnership in the past in the Amazon business, and it was a little bit discouraging at the time being in a partnership where one person wasn't equally as driven about the business model, and having two people now not only equally driven but also being able to bounce, like when you're looking at software and you think you found a good product on the shelves, being able to immediately like have two sets of eyes looking over it. It was it's nice to have the partnership. It gives you a little bit more sense of, although clearly the profits divided down as well, the benefit of being able to cross-reference things with somebody right then and there gives you a lot more, at least me and him, more security in picking products, especially when it comes time to ordering a abundant amount of products. Sometimes it feels a little bit crazy placing those orders, but it's nice having somebody else to kind of, and you as well. You give us a hell of a lot of clarity when it comes to decisions we have to make. So it works out well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think having like partnerships can be the best thing ever, or it can be the worst thing ever, right? Just depends on your partner. But I mean, you guys are killing it. Obviously, you guys work really well together. The last client that I interviewed, I don't know if you guys watched, it's Taryn. He posts in the group pretty often, and it's a husband-wife duo, and they work extremely well together. They give each other different jobs, and everybody has their kind of role, and then they can just, they just blow up really quickly. So I mean, and you can see why, because like, well, you have two people doing the work, so you're going to grow significantly faster if you're both invested.
And it's handy too, because his family lives out of state, if he has to go see his family, I had to go out of the country earlier in the year just do some family stuff, and it allows. It's nice too, because especially with like the FBM orders, if we do a lot of FBM as well, and if one of us is gone, the other one can kind of carry the weight, and it always kind of we always go back to, filling the responsibility if one of us has to head out. So it works out well.
So recently we were doing FBA for like the first 2 to 3 months. We were doing a lot of FBA, but it switched to a lot of FBM just because we found that since we're doing a lot of retail, we do test orders. So we'll get like 3 to 5 of a product at a store, see if it sells well. And if it does, then we just end up getting as much as we can. And we just like the FBM process because it's a lot quicker. You can test products a lot faster. And if for some reason you do order a lot of something and it doesn't sell, like let's say Amazon hops on the listing, we can always return it within 30 to 60 days. So it's kind of like a foolproof way of you can't lose that way.
Sure. And then a lot of people that have been in the group who grew like really quickly, kind of like you guys, a lot of them went really heavy on FBM. And I mean, it makes sense. You're able to just turn your money over like significantly faster.
And honestly, I know you talk about like seeing that first sale, like the win, like it gives you more of like a boost almost to keep going. But going from having to do like 1 or 2 or 3 FBM orders over the course of a week to having to package 15 to 20 like FBM orders a day, it gives you a visible, like tangible thing to see, like, holy cow, this is actually growing. Because when we were doing those mugs back in the day, we dabbled with different FBM products, but I'm talking maybe 5 a week we were sending in. And now the UPS people know us by our first names. We're in there all the time, and it's fun. It feels with FBA, it's nice not having to touch everything, but at the growing phase, it's nice, like literally feeling the product, seeing what we're doing, and it keeps me more motivated to keep going because we see the volume.
Yeah, for sure. It looks real, and I do always talk about like, it's like, just get that first win. I'm like, that's why I like when people start with retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, and then transition into wholesale, because wholesale is another beast. Just like private label. Private label is a whole nother beast, but you can get those wins so fast. And a lot of times people are coming in and it's like they have no experience with business. They don't have the concept of this is going to take some time, and we got to keep hustling until we see the results. So it's like sometimes those quick wins is just enough to keep them going, and then make them go all into the business model. So I wanted to kind of go back to something you guys touched on, which was the mentorship. I get a lot of flack for how I structure the mentorship. And I think a lot of it is because there's so many other coaches out there that, hey, I have this mentorship, come join this. And then they ghost you, or they push you off to a VA or to another coach. So how has the mentorship been for you guys? Is it legit? Kind of give me your experience with it.
Honestly, I had very little expectations going into it because I've seen so many things at different courses. And I know you were very busy. You have probably a lot of people in the course that you have to talk to. But the fact that you send me the voice messages, just that little extra step makes it feel that much more personable. And it honestly just kind of sets you apart from other courses, in my opinion.
As a matter of fact, what really made me realize, like, holy cow, this guy's the real deal is I think you were on vacation and you were having to hike up a small hill or mountain to send out messages one morning or something. And I remember thinking, holy shit, this guy's really about it. So it gave me confidence because I've paid for other mentorships when I was doing private label, and I got lucky. My first mentor with private label, and the private label space was really good. But then I continued buying courses just because I like to learn from other people, and a lot of not so great mentors. So the same kind of thing, zero expectations, but the response time is great. And honestly, you seem to always go above and beyond to make sure our questions are answered as in depth as possible. So
yeah, I remember that day. We were on a camping trip, and I knew there wasn't going to be any service, and I was like, "Fuck!" It's part of my routine. It's like because I don't like to keep you guys waiting, right? So it's like I've been in a lot of mentorship groups, coaching groups, like really expensive ones, and it's a lot like people are worried about. It's like you jump in, you don't really hear much, or if you do, it's kind of just kind of breezes over your stuff. So it's like I hate being like that. Yeah, I remember I tried to go find service. I'm like, no, not happening. But yeah, every day, no matter what I'm doing, I'm like, if I have to wake up a little earlier, I'll wake up a little earlier just to be able to answer those questions, because you guys are paying for a service, right? So it's like you got to deliver on that service. And I think a lot of people take their clients and their audience for granted. And it's like that's something I told myself I would never do.
Well, as somebody who has purchased somebody who's purchased multiple courses, hands down, honestly, one of the most thorough. Not only the communication, but the actual count of all the lessons. I was fully expecting to get the course and there'd be a couple modules kind of breezing over some things, but you went very in depth. And honestly, at times I had to rewatch. I had a cross country road trip, and I told him I listened to the entire course again because it's almost like watching a movie through a second time. You miss things the first time through, and you went in depth on a lot of stuff. And honestly, I didn't even think about the manufacturing margins and things like that. There's a lot of fine details that I didn't even think about when it came to especially online arbitrage when we first got started.
Cool, man. I appreciate it. What was some of the mistakes that you guys have ran into? Because I know in your post you said, we ran into every mistake in the book. What were some of those big mistakes that you guys could kind of see if new sellers would avoid?
Again, pretty much everything. After the fact, you notice it, but like you could just tell there was a blatant IP complaint. So we've hopped on the listings where we've got messages sent in the mail from the brand, like cease and desist letters. Like the seller count was spiking, we got into it. As soon as that inventory got into the FBA warehouses, the price just dipped, and we just had to liquidate pretty much. Same thing with like prices. Like the prices will be like you say, you want to look at the main line of where it's been at the whole history. And we'll hop in when it's spiking because there's no sellers on it. And as soon as we get on it and the seller count goes up again, the price drops. We've lost a lot of money on certain products, but that's just part of it. You live and you learn. So
We also wanted to go the wholesale route. We realized arbitrage on the retail arbitrage and online arbitrage were going to be the way, but we almost made some very critical mistakes going with wholesale suppliers or distributors that looked to be promising that definitely weren't.
that's one main thing we learned is you really don't want to be emotional about it. Like you can't make emotional based decisions or decisions based off of fear. You have to trust the softwares. And that's pretty much all there is to it.
Yeah, and then with wholesale suppliers, it's also just don't get too like eager to go place a wholesale order. Like, oh, they sell this, they sell that, because then you put your blinders on and you go buy from a bad supplier, and then that's how your account gets shut down.
And that's the great thing about the course too, is you're looking for the opposite. Like you want the product not to work. You're looking for all the stuff, all the reasons it won't work. And since we're buying it, we want it to work. So it's like a perfect.
What we found now is that depending on where you're sourcing when it comes to retail arbitrage and things like that, like we've actually now found that we're building in a way wholesale relationships with local stores because they're seeing the volume of things we're purchasing every month. One store in specific's been huge for us. Like we spend a couple of grand there a month on inventory, and now it's turning into actually placing wholesale orders through that store's company and using their distribution center. So as opposed to having to risk a shady wholesale company, we're literally using a local store's distributor because they see the volume. It helps their store revenue out, and it's going to help us out. And it's been an interesting transition, but it all started because of doubling down on retail arbitrage. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because a lot of times people will do retail arbitrage and then they'll say like, oh, the managers don't like me, the employees don't like me, this and that. They get a lot of flack or whatever, but it looks like you guys leverage those relationships, and now it's going to set you up to do much bigger on the road.
Yeah. I always try to make it a point. I've worked retail as well, like years ago, and I always make it a point to try to like be very friendly to everybody. We shake hands. We try to remember names. We go in there and we actually try to talk to the managers, and because there is definitely like, especially when we did a lot of returns early on, there's definitely some stores in the area that they see us walk in with like a cart full of returns and they're just like shaking their head. But we try to put smiles on everybody's faces when we're in there. And honestly, like with the store we were talking about with the wholesale contract we're getting now, we went in there multiple times a week for multiple weeks trying to see if we could get wholesale pricing. And it was no, talk to this person, call this number. Then at the end of it, the store manager was just like, you know what, let me figure this out for you. And he actually, after all those no's and showing up multiple times a week, he finally actually got us into contact with the rep for the distribution center. So it's sometimes you just have to force those conversations and try to make everybody happy, and being friendly in the store has helped a lot.
Yeah, no, I think also staying persistent. A lot of people would have gotten that first no and they would have been like, all right, fuck this, it's not going to work. Let me go look somewhere else, or buying from here. You know, that persistence goes a long way. Like
their wholesale, like the wholesale website actually for this company didn't even work. Yeah. So we were trying to do like wholesale order requests, like bulk pricing requests over the website, but their website it's being rebuilt, so nothing was working or getting through. So the fact that we were able to go in person and ask them, I mean, we wouldn't have been able to do it if we couldn't have gone in person.
So they essentially weren't taking any new clients up until like January 1 when their website was revamped. So we kind of got lucky right now, but once again, it's because we did not stop bothering them.
Honestly, I think that goes a long way in wholesale in general, but yeah, for sure. Did you guys run into a lot of gating issues at all?
At the beginning, like I think we had to get gated in like Nike and just some other big name brands. But again, a lot of a lot of the ungating process is covered in your course, and we just kind of watch your videos, learn from you because you made those mistakes, and it made it a lot easier for us. And Target's been really big for us too, like because they carry so many products, and they've been the easiest like website we use to get ungated in certain products.
Yeah, Target's great. I know the gating issue is a big one for a lot of people. That's why I ask. Usually in the beginning, people run into that issue, but you just make some sales like you guys, stay persistent, and it's like those things open up relatively easy. Like it's not as big of a deal as everybody's making it seem.
That's one thing I feel like, once again, with two people, especially, like, I feel like it can be very easily to get discouraged when you finally find a product in the software that's good ROI, good margin, good like offer count, everything like that, and you get excited and you get built up, and then it says, oh, requires approval, or you can't sell this, and that's a continuing to try to find workarounds around all that is, I feel like, sometimes the hardest part when it comes to just actually making the first sale, and that's huge for new sellers as well. As you just try to find a way, try to find a way.
Yeah.
Don't give up on that.
Yeah, it's not forever. Like I had this guy. He's in the group. His name is Ravi, and he just hit 1,000 in sales. And he's like, dude, I've been gated for everything. And he's like, as soon as he hit 1,000, it's like so many things started opening up. And then somebody else posted to the group recently. They made their first sale, and after their first sale, brands started opening up, and they could apply for a lot of things that they weren't able to apply. But I want to ask you guys because you've told me that you guys have had a lot of mistakes made throughout the process. You guys have gone from state to state. A lot of people won't even go down the road to their local discount store to find inventory. How important do you think has been like that mentality of I'm going to make this work no matter what? How important do you think that is to have in this business?
Very important, especially because like I think being in the position where you have no safety net, like because we're only surviving off of our businesses. So we have the three businesses. Neither of us, I mean, we're both self-employed. So having that like no options mentality is very important, I feel like. Just kind of forcing yourself into it. It's not for everybody. It can be very stressful at times, but I think having that zero options mentality, like I have to get this done. There is no other option.
That's not to say that you can't do this with a 9 to 5. You just we're at a position with we're at a point of our other businesses where if we were both working full-time jobs and a call came in for one of the two other businesses, or we have to go wash a commercial property with our pressure washing business, or that us being at a 9 to 5 just really isn't an option to try to scale what we're doing right now. So it really is. It's possible the way we're doing it, but it does not mean you can't do it with a 9 to 5 job as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Edwin was the last interview I did. I just posted it to the channel. He got to his first 10K in 5 weeks with a full-time job, family, all the responsibilities. So it's like realistically, if you have that mentality of I'm going to make this work with whatever situation I have, it's like chances are you're going to do pretty well.
People, I mean, and I know you know this, but people would be surprised what you can do with a couple extra hours in the evening when it comes to moving the needle forward on an Amazon business, because it's truly like even with how much we're trying to grow, there still is a lot of downtime with Amazon where you're waiting for either inventory to get checked in or you've packed all your FBM orders, and then you can always source more, but I mean there is always downtime. So it's
I do want to ask, where do you guys think you would be if you never joined the course? How much longer do you think it would have taken for you guys to progress? Because I don't have a doubt that you guys would grow, but how much longer do you think it would have taken?
Yeah, I think it would have taken us a lot longer. I still think we would be at the point we are now. We would have made a lot more mistakes, lost a lot more money in the long term. But the main thing I feel like was the organization. Like we weren't organized whatsoever when we were starting. And a big part of the course was like a whole section of just organization. Having the order sheets and just all the different Excel sheets to track everything, I feel like has been very important because we can see where we can get better, and we can, if you have it all tracked, you can reorder, like you remember to reorder what's selling, and it can all get kind of confusing if you're not tracking it correctly. So, yeah.
As a matter of fact, it's the product sourcing daily workflow. That's been huge. Just following that helps a lot.
Dude, I remember when I made those, I was like, I like to break things down as simply as I possibly can because that's how I break it down in my head, So I was like, fuck, I hope these works. I hope these things work. And usually people say is like those have been a huge help.
Yeah,
that's what honestly. I mean, his take was great. Organization really was the number one thing that I think your course did help with, and just clarity, but also I think a big thing is I think we honestly probably would have ended up placing a wholesale order that we had no business ordering had we not had you not kind of reminded us, hey, start with this, do it this way, and then go into wholesale. We probably would have been in a we probably would have ordered something we didn't need to order.
Yeah, that actually is super common. People jump into wholesale, like I said earlier, they see like, oh, this guy sells this or that, and then they're like, let me just give him all my money. And it's like, no, man, especially with the climate now with Amazon, it's like there's so many new suppliers that are popping up out of nowhere. You look them up on Google Maps, they're in their garage, they're at their house, and it's like you got to protect yourself.
Oh, we did one test order with a wholesaler out of New Jersey of some like foot cream or
Yeah,
something.
it's called Medcare LLC.
Yeah, and we
Um,
thought for sure they were a scam. And granted, I still think that there's still a little bit shady that way. But we ordered some Burt's Bees foot cream, and it miraculously showed up like 2 months later. So it did show up, and we did get a killer
Holy
price on it.
shit.
But I guarantee they wouldn't be able to supply them with.
Now, if you want to be a part of the one-on-one mentorship program that I do offer that's helping my clients go from 0 to their first 10K per month in record time, you're going to want to click that first link in the description. It's going to give you all of the details that you need to know. But keep in mind, guys, this is true one-on-one coaching. I am helping you personally, no VAs, nothing like that. I'm not throwing you into a group and you're hoping for the best. I'm not telling you to show up to busy Zoom calls and hoping that your question gets answered. This is true one-on-one mentorship, and that's why my clients get results just like all of these that I'm flashing on screen right now in record time. So with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the interview, and I will see you guys in the next one.